Good evening. This is My24 TV and this is Business Today. I'm Miriam Wambete, and let's get right into the banking system. Now, the Afriland Bank quits its operation in Uganda. Now, this comes as the Bank of Uganda has urged customers with accounts in Afriland Bank to withdraw their money after the bank liquidates the money. Let's get a report on this.
The central bank has approved the request of the Cameroonian bank to apply to the High Court for the voluntary liquidation. Michael Atingi-Igo, the deputy governor of the central bank, reassured the public on Afriland First Bank not being insolvent, but the liquidation decision was made by the shareholders. Afriland was issued a commercial banking license to operate in Uganda in April 2019, along with Opportunity Bank. The bank suffered losses as they increased by 45.11%, which was equivalent to 2.6 billion in 2021. The voluntary liquidation of the Afriland Bank means Uganda is now left with 25 commercial banks in an industry dominated by foreign banks. This is different from the past, where the Bank of Uganda was quizzed by the parliament for closing some banks without following the laid-down guidelines and the process. Shareholders of some of the banks like National Bank of Commerce, Crane Bank Limited, Global Trust Bank still remain that they were unfairly closed on account of being undercapitalized. Bariji Andrew, Smart24. The central bank has approved the request of the Cameroonian bank to apply to the High Court for the voluntary liquidation. Michael Atingi-Igo, the deputy governor of the central bank, reassured the public on Afriland First Bank not being insolvent, but the liquidation decision was made by the shareholders. Afriland was issued a commercial banking license to operate in Uganda in April 2019, along with Opportunity Bank. The bank suffered losses as they increased by 45.
Moving on to the
in an industry dominated by foreign banks. This is different from the past, where the Bank of Uganda was quizzed by the parliament for closing some banks without following the laid-down guidelines and the process. Shareholders of some of the banks like National Bank of Commerce, Crane Bank Limited, Global Trust Bank still remain that they were unfairly closed on account of being undercapitalized. Bariji Andrew, Smart24. The central bank has approved the request of the Cameroonian bank.
Moving on to electricity bills, the Electricity Regulatory Authority of Uganda has signed a memorandum of understanding with the reliability of quota of power that is supplied. This memorandum is signed to reduce on the quality of power. Let's get a report on that.
Uganda National Chamber of Commerce and Industry is the oldest nationwide umbrella organization for the private sector in Uganda. Its objective is to promote and protect the interests of the business community, particularly its members who are represented in all sectors of the economy. The various sectors include internal and external trade, industry, tourism, agribusiness, transport, and other services. Uganda National Chamber of Commerce Industry puts more focus on advocating for appropriate economic policies and interventions that encourage a favorable business and an investment climate. The Secretary General of UNNCI hinted on the importance of this memorandum.
Generators, we should also rely on the availability, accessibility, and the reliance on our electricity being there. When you look at our manufacturing, for example, our manufacturing sector, they will tell you that they have a standby generator that is there because our power maybe will go off at any time. But these are issues that maybe could be generated by different other issues that we don't know. But when we come to the same table and discuss them, then we get the right information to relay to our members in line with the changes that are coming. So on behalf of Uganda National Chamber of Commerce, and of course our board that is headed by our President, Madam Olive Chigongo, and also the technical team that is headed by myself, we are very receptive.
She added that with a big free international trade area, Uganda should look at this as a chance and increase production to boost the economy.
It is from the district level, regional, and also the corporate. So it represents one of the biggest percentages of the private sector. So Representing here means that everything that we sign and we endorse and we put in practice, it is important for us not to sign the memorandum of understanding and we shelve it. Because for the benefit of the private sector, for us we are looking at how we will turn this paper into the practical solutions that we're bringing to the private sector to reduce the cost of carrying out business, and also that will eventually reduce the pricing of the product, and we will compete favorably with the international market. Allow me highlight that right now we are moving to the African Continental Free Trade Area, the largest market in the world. That means that we are opening doors for all the 54 countries that are coming to Uganda, but also as we are taking our goods there. So the cost of production will determine how much of our goods are able to actually go out of Uganda and get the market. So we want to thank you for this very noble cause. We know that it was also initiated by the two teams.
The Director of Economic Regulations said that they are leveraging on this partnership to reach out to a bigger audience, including small-scale medium enterprises.
Of our consumers of electricity are aware, and therefore they struggle to go to the banks to get loans and make connections, and they do not recover that money. But if you use the rebate policy, you can recover all your costs for making a connection. Now, this is an incentive that is out there, but very few are using it. We have seen connections which are being done by the large manufacturers, the big manufacturers, but it has not been taken up by the small and medium manufacturing. And this is where the gap is information.
Ms. Omujisha hinted on bridging the gap within the supply chain.
If you're saying that now the SMEs contribute 35% revenue to the power consumption here in Uganda, that means that they're playing a large role, but they do not access this information, they do not know where to get it, but also the ability to translate this information to be understood by the target audience. When you put it in, an engineer will easily understand these incentives because they are written in codes.
Renana Habwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Moving on to the child protecting system, the non-government organization has asked the government to allocate more funds on the child protection system in order to reduce on the early marriages and pregnancy among the young children. Let's get more on this.
It is my pleasure to speak at this important moment as we come together to support planning and budgeting for the lives of children, adolescents, and young people who are the future of any country, including Uganda.
According to reports from UNICEF for 2015 on child marriage in Uganda, the 40% rate of the child marriage is higher than the African average of 39%. A number of factors contribute to this high rate, including poverty, gender norms and expectations. Uganda falls among the 15 worst African countries with high number of child brides. It is in the 11th positions, while Niger tops the list at 75%, followed by Chad, %. Ivata Ovri, the country director of Plan International, has therefore implored government to increase budget allocation towards child protection systems as part of decreasing child marriage cases.
With the rising cases of teenage pregnancies and child marriages, we implore government to invest in sensitization in schools and communities to enable young mothers return to schools and exercise their rights to education, and also fund the protection systems such as those managed by the police, child welfare and probation units, to be in position to support protection intervention for children, adolescents and youth. As we deliberate on this issue, because they bring out real issues that need to be addressed. Let us make joint effort to listen to children and young people, to look at the evidence that they bring to us, and make bold choices to improve programs and increase funding to the critical areas as we discussed.
However, in the financial year 2022 to 23, there was an increase in budget allocation towards child protection from 77 billion to 152.08 billion. Civil society organizations have therefore expressed worry as to whether this money will reach the targeted audience.
Most importantly, as civil society, we commend government on the 113% increase in child protection budget from the 77 billion to 152.08 billion in FY 22 to 23. This is a very good achievement for us as we continue to engage in these budgetary processes. But I think the biggest question then remains how this really goes into meeting the service and service needs of the vulnerable populations that we serve.
According to the studies, countries with the worst child marriage scores also have the highest maternal mortality rates, the highest rates, and constitute the great majority of people living with HIV. Basing on the reports from the UN Population Fund, if present trends continues, 1,353,000 of the girls that were born between 2005 to 2010 will be married before the age of 18 by 2030. This calls for an urgent programs to prevent it. Bedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Rising public debt, the governor of Bank of Uganda has advised the government to invest more on the borrowed money on capital projects. Let's get a report on that.
While addressing the media, the Deputy Governor, Michael Atingi Igo, shared anticipations in the yet-to-be-read budget in the financial year 2022-2023 and largely emphasized the rising debt burden.
I think from what I have heard so far, I'm comforted by one thing, that the level of domestic borrowing is going to come down, because we are very concerned about public debt. The rate at which debt is growing is very, very concerning, it's very worrying to us. And whereas debt is not bad, particularly if it is used to expand the economy. And the expansion of the economy generates higher tax revenues, generates higher exports. That is good because you have the capacity to repay whatever you borrowed. But if the debt that you are contracting is not expanding the economy, is not generating additional revenues, is not generating additional exports, then that's where the worry is. So we need to make sure that whatever money we are borrowing actually is productively used. The borrowing that is dangerous is a borrowing that is going to be used for consumption, buying cars, what have you. So we need to ensure that all the money we borrow is invested in capital projects, and there's value for money from those capital projects in order to generate higher growth in the economy, generate more tax revenues, generate more exports, so that we can sustainably maintain our debt.
Koti Paul Lakuma, an economist at the Economic Policy Research Center in Makerere University, airs out his outlook on the budget, largely on the side of the nation's rising debt burden.
To debt. It's reaching the tipping point, according to estimates. It's largely dominated by the external, about 70%, 30%, 30 to 40% is domestic. The main risks are coming from the domestic side, mainly due to securities and instruments which are maturing faster than the projects they are financing. Domestic debt, as it's popularly known, constrains private sector, because then banks will be able to cherry pick between the government and the private sector, and banks will prefer to lend to the government because of the notion that government never defaults. So in the medium term, we should look at managing that portfolio of domestic debt going forward, and also borrowing more on concessional terms in regard to external debt, and rebalancing the source of external debt.
Economic growth in the financial year 2021-2022 is projected at 3.8% and is expected to improve further to about 6% in the financial year 2022-2023. Barije Andrew, on Smart 24.
Moving on to the transport sector, we've got some good news now. The Minister of Transport and Works has finally officiated the first railway capacity building school. This school will be able to train people on railway materials. Let's get more on this.
In a bid to ease railway transport in the country, Uganda Railways Corporation has procured 4 locomotives at 42 billion shillings. It has also opened a training school for those who will operate them. Speaking at the event in Lalkolongo in Kampala, the Director for Transport, Kajuna Beno Mwebaze, who represented the Minister, General Wamala Katumba, said the government is committed to investing more resources to scale up the use of railway transport in the country.
€1 for capacity building, and it's mainly on training and building capacity of the staff. As you may be aware, after the concession, the URC was dilapidated. So not only in terms of infrastructure, but also in terms of human resource capital. And we are trying to engineer the processes of railways. We are trying to create mindset change. We are trying to build the hard infrastructure. We are also trying to build the soft infrastructure to make sure that the human beings can be able to re-engineer the processes so that railways can be able to perform its function. Now, what is the function of URC? The main function is transportation business. And here we are saying they must be able to deliver the services to customers as stipulated in the service level agreements which they normally sign with the customers.
Uganda Railways Corporation Managing Director Stanley Sendegaya noted that they have received 4 new locomotives to bring the total number to 8, which are now transporting 30,000 tons of cargo to Kenya and carrying 10,000 passengers per day. The other locomotives would arrive in 3 years' time to carry 10,000 passengers per day.
New locomotives, the 4, plus 2, which are not in good state, which were here. Those are main line. Then we have 4 shunting locomotives, the small ones, which are old. So we have like 8 locomotives now. But after these projects, we are going to have some brand new locomotives, 10 shunting locomotives, and another 8 mainline locomotives after 3 years. That is the locomotives. Then in terms of capacity, we are currently moving about 30,000 tons of cargo, and after 3 years, we shall be moving 120,000 tons per month of cargo. Yes. In terms of passengers, we are currently doing 1,000 passengers a day. After COVID, before COVID, we are doing 2,000. Now let me say we are doing 2,000. Then after the 3 years, we shall be doing about 300,000 passengers. That's 3.6 million passengers a year, 300,000 per month, which comes to 10,000 per day.
Now moving on to the health sector, the Heart Institute has asked today the Parliament for an approval of $73 million to start up an art hospital at NAGURU. Let's get more on this.
The construction project is estimated at $73 million, with an intention of getting the loan from the 3 different banks: $20 million from the Arab Bank, $30 million from Saudi Funds for Development, and $20 million from OPEC funds, and Uganda government estimated to give $3 million, as stated by the State Minister of Finance, Honorable Henry Musasi, to the committee.
The total project cost is $73 million. Saudi Fund for Development will contribute 30. Badea will contribute 20, OPEC will contribute 20, and shillings $3 million will be contributed by government of Uganda. Government of Uganda will contribute $3 million mainly to contribute civil works and finance project management. All project costs are exclusive of taxes, and therefore government will provide budget allocation for taxes and operational costs in the quarter of the financial year, in addition to the above mentioned amount.
According to the minister, these loans have their own terms and conditions in terms of interest and maturity period, depending on the amount of the loan.
One, the Saudi Fund Development Facility has the following terms. Loan amount is $30 million. Maturity period is 25 years with 5 years of grace period, and the interest rate is 2%. The Badea facility has the following terms. Loan amount $20 million, maturity period years, including 5 years of grace period, and the interest rate is 2% per annum. The OPEC fund facility has the following terms. Loan amount $20 million, maturity period is 20 years with
The construction project is estimated at $73 million, with an intention of getting the loan from the 3 different banks. $20 million from the Arab Bank, $30 million from Saudi Funds for Development, and $20 million from OPEC funds, and Uganda government estimated to give $3 million, as stated by the State Minister of Finance, Honorable Henry Musasizi, to the committee.
Total project cost is $73 million. Saudi Fund for Development will contribute 30. Badea will contribute 20. OPEC will contribute 20. And shillings $3 million will be contributed by government of Uganda. Government of Uganda will contribute $3 million mainly to contribute civil works and finance project management. All project costs are exclusive of taxes, and therefore government will provide budget allocation for taxes and operational costs in the quarter of the financial year, in addition to the above mentioned amount.
According to the minister, these loans have their own terms and conditions in terms of interest and maturity period, depending on the amount of the loan.
One, the Saudi Fund Development Facility has the following terms. Loan amount is $30 million. Maturity period is 25 years with 5 years of grace period, and the interest rate is 2%. The Badea facility has the following terms. Loan amount $20 million, maturity period 20 years, including 5 years of grace period, and the interest rate is 2% per annum. The OPEC fund facility has the following terms. Loan amount $20 million, maturity period is 20 years with 5 years of grace. Interest rate is 6 months of SOFR. We have changed from LIBOR to SOFR plus 2%. Where you have 200, it is the equivalent of 2%. of 0.175, meaning that 2 is fixed and the 0.15 is variable. It keeps changing depending on the market conditions. Front-end fee of the loan is 0.25% and commitment fees is 0.25%.
However, the chairperson of the National Economic Committee, Honorable John Bosco Ikojo, worries about the high interest rates in the proposed loans, which is higher than the 2014 loan applied for the Yumbe General Hospital.
2014, the Ministry of Health had a borrowing to finance the rehabilitation of Yumbe General Hospital and Kayunga. And Badea gave us a loan of about $7 million with an interest rate of about 1%. In 2014, with an interest rate of about 1% per annum. Also, the Saudi Fund for Development gave us a loan of $15 million. They gave us a loan tenure of 30 years with a grace period of 10 years. So which means the payment period was for 20 years. And they also gave us an interest rate at 1%. This time, the same financing agencies are giving us loans at 2%, which I see slightly higher. And then the constitutionality element is also not very visible. That's why we are saying it is semi-concessional. And yet our public finance management framework guides us that the loans we should get for social service delivery should be purely.
In the minister's response to this kind of interest, he says situations in 2014 changed to that of 2020s, and now there are limited windows for such concessional borrowing.
Mr. Chairman, the situation we are in now and the situation of 2014 is not the same. In 2014, those days we had so many windows for concessional borrowing. But then they have over the years crystallized. Yes, you have mentioned World Bank. World Bank gives us money, but they have a basket. Not all our projects fit within their limits. That's why we look here and there. But if I look at the terms under which this loan is being arranged, per se, they are not really very, very bad terms. You have said they are semi-concessional. Yes, but if a loan is 2% for 20 years with 5 years of grace period, you have commitment fees of 0.25%. I have a feeling, Chairman, considering the need and the cost we are spending on treating these patients, considering the development impact this loan will bring, Mr. Chairman, I feel it's not a bad deal to have this loan under these terms.
There is a fear on the loans got due to the Loboa Hospital that has spent years without being constructed. However, there is hope for the new Uganda Heart Institute. Ugandans suffering from heart conditions will benefit from it and in turn reducing costs of treatment from abroad.
The nation knows this clearly. If we develop these services, we can even control prices to a great extent. And as we talk, one patient undergoing heart surgery at the institute it costs $5,000. I don't mind where the money comes from, whether it is a donation, whether it is what, but if you total up what you have utilized, it is about $5,000. Now, if that patient is taken abroad without any negotiations, he will part with $20,000. starting first of all with the starting with the investigations to get approval, then you go through the visas, you go through the air tickets, then upkeep, then by the time you round up, it is $20,000 in the cheapest place. Now, the facility we are looking at can handle 5,000 operations each year. 5,000 times 20,000, it would be 100 million. If we do it here, 5,000 times 5,000 is 25 million. So every year we would be saving 75 what?
That's all we had for you today. Thank you for being part of Business Today. And I'm Miriam Wambete. Have a good night.